you're probably listening to me because of many reasons. You own a business, or you run a team, or you're a leader of a group, you're a father of a family. And the reason why you're listening to me, the reason why you're interested in coaching, is because you're not ready to settle. It's because you have high standards. You always have. You've had high standards of yourself and high standards of what you want out of life. I started my coaching business 18 years ago. It's amazing to think about what's gone into those 18 years. 750 one-on-one coaching clients throughout 3 different countries on the planet. I've just completed over 22,000 coaching sessions invoiced. I have a lot of experience from those 22,000 sessions, and I often think about what are the most important deliveries and services and capabilities that those 22,000 hours can deliver the entrepreneurs and leaders and top producers that depend on me in coaching sessions today. I'm in about 120 coaching sessions per week. I do about 1,500 coaching sessions per year. This is all I do. And my professional coaching career spans through large companies, small companies, team leaders, great sales producers. In fact, today, a lot of the individuals that depend on me for coaching them are in national status with their company. But more than that, it's not about all the success and all the glamour and all the prosperity and all these material things that my clients win. It's more about the kind of lives in the background that they develop. It's that phone call from my client's daughter or son that calls and says, "Thank you so much for giving my mother back or my dad back. I'm so glad they're so present and attentive at home, and I'm so glad we have all this great free time together." Or I'll get a call from a wife or a husband that's so grateful for winning back their spouse after feeling like their business had stolen them away, all their energy and all the interference that the business was causing. So I like to think of my work, the driver behind my work at the real core is I'm really about liberating you. I'm about liberating a leader, and I think there's a lot to that liberating quality because there's a certain creative freedom that I wholeheartedly know that you can tap into. And I want you to consider right now the actual creative freedom that you have compared to the desired creative freedom that you want. You might be asking yourself, well then JD, what is creative freedom? How do I really relate with what creative freedom is? To me, creative freedom is the capacity to organize your decisions, your actions, and your communications around what really matters to you. I often get asked from people, what is it that's really the secret to being happy? And I think after all this experience, I can tell you that people truly want to be involved. What leaders really want is they want to be involved in what they're creating. And you know this, whenever you've created something that you desire, time seems to change. You come out of focus periods and you feel like things happen so quickly. You can't believe things change so fast. And you're immersed in what you're doing. I've seen people in the most happiest moments of their lives when they're taking meaningful leaps into something they're uncertain of, but they deeply desire to create it. And I always recommend that to the entrepreneur, to the leader, to you, that you can rethink your life at any time. And that capacity to rethink your life, to consider what really matters to you, and know that you will not invest your life spirit in a compromise. This drives what the quality of creative freedom is about. I think creative freedom has an internal quality and an external quality. The internal quality is to remove the judgment, is to not operate from the past, but really learn from the future by doing things, because you only know the path by walking. The interior freedom that you have is the capacity to welcome new ideas, to be able to consider alternative future possibilities, to unhook yourself from the past, and almost unhook yourself from the future, to be so present that the emerging qualities of your future self can come into you as you consider what really matters, what has heart and meaning in your life. To me, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, the most incredible thing about your creative freedom is that you can really integrate your experiences. And the only antidote to changing your history is through reflection. So isn't it interesting that in order for you to really make great changes in your life, you have to stop, reflect, consider what matters, Otherwise, you're too busy being busy to do what could make you a lot less busy. I think it's the incessant freneticness of life, the pace of life, all the gadgets and technology, and the desire to stay on the cutting edge and keep up that becomes the true interference of the real moments that we cherish in our life-building process and the story of our life that's unfolding as we go. So within that, you have to let things in. You have to be able to be receptive to what's really going on and be able to let the situations that you're in change you. And if you're always on the way somewhere, and if you're not applying good attention to things, then you're just not going to notice certain opportunities that you need to react to. You're not going to come into the next level or the next opportunities because you're so distracted by what you're inclined to look for. You understand that our mind is made to be kind of a reconfirming instrument, that whatever we're wanting to do or whatever we're inclined to habitually think, we tend to select things in the moments we're in that are suitable and confirm what it is we know. But as a leader, you have to challenge that boundary. You have to go beyond and actually look beyond what we know into understanding others, being able to sense with empathy others that are constituents in the systems in which we lead. We have to be able to see beyond what we know and think. We have to be able to listen with mindfulness and be able to kind of observe our own mind and not let our habitual thinking lock us out of possibilities or have us miss certain data points or opportunities that are standing an inch away. Rather, we have to learn how to listen dimensionally, or what I call peripheral listening, so that our creative freedom allows us to tap into ways in which the emerging future possibilities that await us are able to take hold of us. They take hold of our attention, and we can integrate these opportunities into potentially great future possibilities. There's so much potential that awaits you, but it involves really learning how to listen on so many levels, such that you're able to so deeply and generously listen. You make such space for yourself in the middle of everything that you're able to truly, remarkably, fundamentally cause such a shift of mind that predictable miracles can actually happen, because I've seen them. And I've seen how people who change their levels of awareness and leaders who become more conscious because of what they put around them, the structures they set up, they're able to take stock of things in their life and be so constructive with the current life they have. I call them the economist, where no matter what's trending in their life, they're able to use life as their teacher. And that's not easy to do when you're constantly moving from one thing to another. So it requires you to live in a more conscious way, to maybe build a level of mindfulness such that you can gather and become inspired by that which is trending in your life, be able to deepen your contact with your experiences so that that inspiration has formative material to it. There are formative forces all around you, but you can't be seen by it. You can't tap into it, because you're often so distracted internally by your own thoughts, trying to evaluate everything going on or interpreting everything, instead of just attending and making direct contact with life. As a leader, you require this. In this leadership challenge today in modern times, with so much complexity, the global economic structures, you're competing in a high-stakes economic global economy, you've got to be developing these capacities. You have to bring these online. You have to continue your education to stay on top. And you realize that you can't really do it alone. You can't do it with a book or a tape, because there's no two-way feedback. You can read great books or you can attend a class, but unless you have the echo back of a dedicated and diligent coach, you've never really seen your own face. You haven't, until someone who's paid to be honest with you actually feeds it back to you like a dolphin who sends out biosonar. You have to send out that signal to someone that is objectively minded and invaluably truthful to tell you the truth. Remember the court jester? I often get called the court jester. Remember, that was the individual in the court, in the king's court, that would tell the king or queen the truth without being killed. That's often what my role is I'm that outsider, I'm that secret weapon, or I'm that success ally or climbing buddy that you depend on. And you realize that if you want to go after great achievements, you're going to need this kind of awareness and this kind of mindfulness. And at the same time, There's an emerging quality in yourself. There's something so essential about you that you know when you operate from there, certain activities that you do, you get lit up by. You're probably doing it in conversations with others. You probably do it when you sell. You do it when other people that you're creating value for bring you into feeling alive. But you've got this business, and you have so many things you're responsible for, and every time you go out and create new business, inadvertently you create more and more detail and more responsibility, and without looking or without being ready, all of a sudden you get caught in all the detail work and all the morass. It feels like an undertow or like an underhand from the underworld dragging you down. You're frustrated. Entrepreneurs feel so alone at the top. They don't have anybody to talk to, and our clients, our VIP coaching clients, they're very sensitive about who they share the truth with. They depend on a sounding board and someone that has the acumen to understand their business matters, as well as the psychological pieces to it and all the other versatile qualities that they need help with. They need a multi-channeled resource for help. They don't like going to therapy because they don't want to look back on the past and regret it. They don't want to keep trying to fix their issues. It's not about working on themselves. What they want to work on is personal mastery. Personal mastery is the booby prize. It is the byproduct of outstanding creative freedom. It is the capacity to dream of things that matter to you and bring them into reality. You have certain personal gifts. You have to be talented to be talented. There are certain talents that are within you that if you don't see, you won't bring them online and take aim with them. So you have to find a way to find those talents. How do you find that without someone else looking at you? You can't define your properties without a relationship with the other. You are inevitably dependent like that. So you require the help of another. I've always said to clients, there's those who love coaches and there's those who don't. And the ones who do understand this dependency. It's a lifetime dependency. You either open your eyes to it or you don't. People that don't have something to prove. They're not comfortable with their own ignorance. They haven't reached a point in their life where they're confronting this dependence because they're afraid. It has certain meanings around it. Having a coach makes you feel weak. It really doesn't. It's actually wanting to work smarter rather than harder. The other part of creative freedom is having the kind of relationships that you want. Your income and your production and the kind of time that you want to spend is directly in proportion to who you have around you. That's your internal team to support you, and that way you can delegate to them. And as you go out in the marketplace and you generate ideal client relationships, fundamentally, when they pay you for the unique talent you have, and you produce that value for them, and you carry out transformative conversations with them, they write you checks. And I like to think of your school as a leader as a school of transactions. You go out in the marketplace, you collect these checks, and every time you collect one, you get a little pearl of wisdom. But the neat thing is that when you don't get a check in your world, you also get a pearl of wisdom, because when things don't work, all of a sudden you suddenly feel, well, I got something to learn here. When things don't work, you have to treat failures as assets. You need more successful failures, in fact, than mediocre successes. But there's more than the creative freedom. You're probably hearing me talk about some other freedoms, some other types of aspects of what your game is about. And I think one of the others is there's a relationship between the spirituality behind what I'm saying, which is occupying more of your true and a more authentic self. But being able to live from there requires you to put a team around you. But it requires you also to be a highly profitable business. Profits are not a bad thing. It's the oxygen of a business. But as Peter Drucker said, if we think it's about breathing, we're lost. It's never about getting to profit by focusing on profit. But spirituality and commerce do need to coexist, because if the business does not matter, if you don't care about what you're doing, if you don't really consider qualities in the business of what you produce, who you produce it for, if those things don't matter, you're going to be competitively threatened, because someone else probably does, and if they do, they're going to probably break beyond the limits. They're going to go beyond you into new frontiers of discoveries and innovation that without the passion you're probably not going to get to. And you may die out easy because you don't have the kind of energy needed to push through some of the barriers when it gets difficult. So it's important to have a highly productive enterprise. And this means you're not only the artist, the creator, who is creatively free and freed up to choose things that matter and builds a team around them such that when they create value for the marketplace, the money actually buys the time to pay the team and enjoy more freedom at home and have more discretionary time. So you're helping yourself really emancipate that artist, but at the same time the artist depends on the diligent engineer. That you have to become a systems person. You have to develop a business, not just own a job, but actually develop a system, develop a process that is highly essential to the marketplace by listening and understanding the profile of your customer, and always come back and making these changes to your business and being able to execute on those changes with effectiveness, efficiency, and production. You've always got to be getting more sales off the assets that you have. You've always got to be getting more profits off the sales that you make. And you've always got to be collecting the operating cash flow off those profits to create a sustainable business. So people often say, well, you know, you're too materialistic. Well, no. If you're trying to create an impressive lifestyle rather than a successful, or what I would call a fulfilling life, then you're probably going to have the kind of values where your business needs you to have the pimp factor. You're buying all the best stuff, you're out to look good, and you're out to drive the nicest car, and you're driving around your net worth. And you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And it's killing you because you're robbing your business blind because you're the one thing that's leaning on it, trying to take all of its money. Whereas if we just look at what really matters to you and live by a life plan, you'd probably find that your business can be geared to serve your life rather than consume it. So there's some real internal changes, and you as the leader are the most important component to the outcome. I know that because if I put you side to side with another leader with the same business, the same market, the same tools, the same resources, one of you is going to win. Why? Because of you. Because you're the leader. And you have certain habits that the business depends on. You're going to need to unlearn things and also learn things to be successful. So the unlearning are the things that won't work to create what you want. It's process of elimination. And then you're going to have other things that really do come into play to create what you want. And you're going to need to learn those by building it brick by brick. You're going to seek what you want, you're going to look at the current reality you have, and you're going to have to close the gaps by acquiring resources, building capacity, and having the intestinal fortitude to withstand the pressure systems between where you are and where you're wanting to go. You have to do that on an individual level as well as a collective level. You've got to build a unified team. Not only that, but you've got to be able to build a business model that's going to go out and be profitable and actually make money and sustain itself so you can continue to buy more time with the money, buy more creative freedom so that you can develop your business, infuse it with more creative ideas, infuse it with more strategic big picture thinking, set the direction of the business, and make sure that you can market it within a budget. At the same time, you've got to hire and fire people. You've got to be not only a fierce executor in your business with diligence and grit and be resolute, but the individual who is also the value creator in the marketplace. That there's an instrument inside of you called the open heart, that if you open it and you access it, and you step out of what you know and you empathize with what other people see through their eyes. Remember that old Harvard Business Review saying? Remember it said, if you want to know what John Smith buys, you got to look through John Smith's eyes? That's about 4 years of Harvard Business School. All you have to do is understand what people's positions are, understand what they fear losing the most, understand their best opportunities, and understand their strengths. And internally in your back office or your backstage, you're the same kind of leader as you are on the front stage. Now, if you're not, you should be. Because you need to be connecting on that level. You're in the business of creating careers for people. You have to have career development conversations with your backstage people. You're developing those people. They're your number one customer. And at the same time, you've got all the outside customers, the actual customers, current clients, spheres of influence. You've got potential customers, and you have your current pipeline that you're working on. But if I know what's happened in your career, you hit a plateau, and your income is probably while you're listening to this, is it's probably plateaued at a certain level. And for you to go out and increase that income, it's going to be working a lot harder. And we know that hard work doesn't substitute intelligence. It just doesn't. So as far as what you have to change and what you need to do, it's about changing your thinking, your strategic thinking first to get to the next level. So to get to 500,000, a million, 2 million in income and beyond, it's not about doing all the work. In fact, the less you do, the more earning power that you have. Can you believe that? That seems kind of paradoxical, doesn't it? Because you probably think, well, the more I do, the less I will, or the more I will make. But it's not true. Every entrepreneur I've ever coached, when they actually offload, hand off everything they're doing to people that are just as or better than they are at doing it, and they love doing it, they start to get really excited because they're focusing on the significant few things, not the trivial manys, and they're able to practice those things, master those things over and over again so that they're not commoditizable. You worry about being a commodity. You should, because when you go out in the marketplace and you're not considering with creative freedom how to develop new solutions and to be relevant and to be impactful and essential, you start to lose your edge. Then you attract all the shoppers. The shoppers say, well, I'm going to buy on that price. And then you say, well, there's no margins. I can't have any margins on that. And I can't pay my people. And I have a cash flow problem. And I can't continue. And then all your enthusiasm and all your spirit and fun of being an entrepreneur starts to fade. I know what that's like. How many times have I started with coaching clients from there? They're befuddled and confused. They can't seem to upgrade any of their capacities because they're so busy. They're constantly trying to play catch up that they can't seem to get into the new technology that they're trying to learn because they have poor priority management. So you need to be a connector, and being a connector means you have to be available for people. That means you have to be responsive for people. And if you're locked away and handling a bunch of stuff, trying to control everything and not letting things go and not letting things be done by masterful people, then you're not growing your business, you're not building your business. And you're surely going to be messed up in terms of your desk. Your organization goes foul. You're in disarray, you're frazzled, you're not thinking clearly because you're always doing all the reactive activities, and adrenaline is your only source of fuel. You're not on top of your work. You're not on your A game. So you've got to have a series of all-stars around you. And at the same time, you're not ready for every client. You have to have a certain selection, a full selection of clients that you want. Because once you select those clients and you stay true to that, what I've noticed is that you actually increase your earning power dramatically and the value you create proportionately. The one asset that you can control is your earning power as an entrepreneur, because your economy of means is you get paid by the result. You don't get paid by the hour. You don't get paid for time. You get paid for the opportunity. You get paid by the result. So that means the view of time is more qualitative rather than quantitative. You've got to be thinking about what to do with the quality of the time you have, not the quantity of the time you have. Because you could take an hour and you could increase your preparation in that hour and have a phenomenally different result. In fact, this year you're going to go into 50 different situations and you're either going to come out on top or you're not. It just depends on how prepared you are. And I know what you're probably wanting. You want to do like Frank Sinatra did. You want to get on the helicopter, come into the theater, start performing, get an hour in, have a stunning performance, get back on the helicopter. All the pianos are moved without you. The lighting was done brilliantly. The stage was set up beautifully. Everything, all the cues went on beautifully. The sound booth was beautiful. Everything was calibrated, coordinated immaculately like a Swiss clock. That's because he was prepared. He was a fierce delegator. Right? He was a great director in that respect. Is that he got great people to take care of all those positions so that he could focus on the one thing that really made the biggest value, and that was coming in and singing away and doing his art and doing what he did in showtime. But he spent a lot of downtime, and he never moved the pianos. But he spent a lot of downtime and free time and also preparation time and adding new ballads to the act, writing new music and so forth, and going backstage. And then out front stage he would have this phenomenal thing, and he realized that backstage, the stronger it got, the more dependent it got, the more confident it got, the more competent it got, the more he could give his greatest front stage performances. And people just saw it over and over again because we all love to watch people love what they do. And part of loving what we do comes from having that sense of confident peace that what we have set up. It's like a driver coming into a pit stop. They know that this pit crew is going to be the best, and they're well rehearsed, and they have systems, and they have an organized consistency, and they have contingency plans. That's because they make a priority out of preparation and planning. And that's something we get our entrepreneurs and our clients doing. So with all that said, you have a certain creative freedom, but you also have a creative value that is directly correlating with this creative freedom. And the creative value nurtures the growth of a business enterprise, but it also creates value for the relationships that are involved, internal and external. But there has to be a conversation. I believe what you really sell is a conversation. Your best client interactions are after a client tells you, I was really glad you got me to think about something that I hadn't thought about in a while. Or it's not really about the tool you're giving them to solve the problem, but more about getting them to think about the problem that was the most valuable. Oftentimes, it's the depth of the relationship, of get to the safety and the intimacy in those relationships that really creates a certain bond, a certain sense that it's really worthy of living for. And that when you're at the end of life and you look back on your report card, you're going to remember what a great business you built, but you're going to remember the relationships and the way that you touched people. And you're going to remember the way that people depended on your gifts and that you owed the world a need to be happy. You owed your clients the need for you to be happy. You're not a black and white business person. That's not your only identity. That would never, ever, ever be the only platform to express your talents or hold that happiness that you're looking for. You have a technicolor life. So that means in the background you have a quality of life. That means you have health. You have a personal financial dynamic. You have your relationship with your kids. You have the relationship with God or relationship with universe. You have your fun and leisure. You're a person who probably is philanthropic. You like to give back or you like to do volunteer work. You know, if you look at your whole life spectrum, you have so many interesting cutouts or compartments that compose the master plan. And if you're only honing in on one, you're missing all the bottom lines. Emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, financial. The 5 key bottom lines. And we want you to have margin in all 5 so that you're making every ounce of music that's inside of you. And you'll notice that every one of those is interdependent. That for you to have a really good positive effect or have a positive influence with a positive state of mind, in knowing that things are going well and you're making positive gains, is only going to help you bring it home. And that if your home life is going great and you sense that companionship and you're creating the relationship that you love, and if you're being there and you're having your emotional needs met and those of your family and your spouse, you're going to be a lot happier of a person when you go out and deal with your business. But see, a lot of us, what we do is we don't parallel create these things. We look at it as, well, I've got to have one or the other. To a certain extent, that's true because there is no balance. There's only counterbalance. You're going to have it all by narrowing in on the 1 or 2 things that are the most important in the hierarchy in these areas. Almost like every one was a drawer, and what's in the drawer are the raw essentials, the crown jewels of what matters most. And assuming we get those, well, you'll be happy and you'll have the energy for the rest. And that's because simplicity is about a hierarchy of importance. Overwhelming yourself is about making everything have equal value. If everything has equal value, then you're bound to be overwhelmed because, well, you don't have the time in the day to handle everything with equal value. That would be completely over your head. And if you try to suck it up, you're not going to meet your ideals and expectations. Would you rather have an inbox and have a few complainers and have a great life, or have a clear inbox and have no life at all? I know what you would say. But at the same time, it involves you taking away your perfectionism. That as a leader, you probably have grown into high ideals of yourself. Those ideals are very different than your values. In fact, they injure you because you have self-critical expectations about what you need to do to live up to your standards. And some of those standards are ones that you will never meet. You've been running toward them your whole life, and it makes you feel unsatisfied in moving toward your goals when you look at your achievements. But it's important also to look backwards from your achievements, to look at what you gained from where you were to where you are, to continue going forward with your ceremonial confidence. Things that were installed in you. Failures, successes, and all the above. You have to stop and look at your achievements. Look at the reasons why they happened. What would be further progress? And what's going to be a next action step? You're trying to pull it all together. That is the one main superordinate objective of all of our coaching clients, is they want to find a way to pull it all together, and they can't do that alone. And so I end with that if you are at the moment when you are saying on the front of your lips, I need to pull it all together. I'm not squared away on all my bottom lines. I'm seeking greatness in all these areas. I want to authenticate myself in creative freedom. I want the visibility and seeing ahead as to a future that I will not compromise, and I want to create and be true to myself as an artist, as a creator. I want to build a dynamic business that's sustainable, not about size, not about speed, but a sustainable business that's effective, efficient, and it's productive. I want to build a unified team so that I can build the kind of support system around me, also at home, so that I'm only concentrating on activities that light me up and bring me into my best, most superior skill sets. So as you pull it all together, you bring together 4 key forces: your creative freedom, which is the ability to be creatively free in your own unique talent and abilities, approaching your most ideal clients and the ones that you truly are most rewarded by when you serve them and develop solutions for them and help them. And you have a supporting team around you that's unified and spirited around a common aim, and truly dependent on each other for their unique abilities and competencies. You have a sustainable business that is effective, efficient, and productive, so that you can produce the kind of margins and profits to continue buying more time, pay down debt, buy more assets, and grow and scale up. You have to be a diligent entrepreneur as the engineer, but also as the diligent artist who is non-compromising about what you truly want to create and where you set your sights. You need the visibility to look at where you actually are. You need not only that, but the agility to respond quickly to changes and to turn the ambiguities into those kind of agile moments when you're learning the future by doing things, not just by trying to predict things and avoid mistakes. You have to dare yourself. You have to be courageous. You have to be committed and have the grit to go all the way. But you have to be the connector too, to be that gifted boss, not an irritated person, but someone who is able to spend their time thinking about and responding to what's going to develop the careers and talents and gifts of the people that are involved in co-creating what you are. And at the same time, listening what's most essential to your market to get freed up and to be able to get payment for what it is that you create value for them with. You're always focusing on opportunity before being entitled to anything. You're always focusing on value creation. There is no entitlements. You're 100% responsible for your own security. You're an economic adult. And you want to be constructive with whatever life brings you. Life is a wild card. Not recklessly responsible for creating your own life. You don't want to be working on yourself when you need to be focusing on things you want to create. The more you focus on yourself, the lousier you become at the creative process. So it's not about fixing you. It's not about fixing your quirks. It's not about working on your weaknesses either, because then you'll miss out on all the glory of making your strengths so strong and so powerful that your weaknesses they're not even on the radar anymore, and you can manage them, but they'll be overwhelmed by your strengths being so powerful. So you need to be there for yourself, and be there for others, and be there for the world. And you can't necessarily do that alone without the help of a great coach who can see an emerging future for you and help you bridge the gap between your current self and the future self where your potential really is. So I appreciated this opportunity to have this moment with you. I hope there were some aha moments in this presentation and that I got your attention and got you excited. And I hope that we get an opportunity to connect. My website is highlevelperformance.com. We're a team of 7, a small boutique business. We're located in Huntington Beach, California. And I look forward to speaking with you to see how we can be helpful in our deliveries and services and capabilities to help you get the most out of what you really came here to do. Our number is 714-375-6624, 714-375-6624. My name is JD, Coach JD. I appreciated the opportunity to speak with you. You can send me an email at thevipcoach@gmail.com. Thank you very much.